that this one is a chatless live stream. And the reason I did that is because I want to actually tell everybody some stories here. I know I've been saying for a while that there's like a lot of blogs that I want to post and just tell some life stories, and a lot of people have expressed interest in hearing some stories from me, but I keep not getting around to it. And I decided that it would be a lot easier just to do it on a live like this instead of having to set up the big camera and the microphone and everything. I could just do it this way. But also be easier without the chat, so that way there's not any like interruptions or distractions along the way. Because I've had some really great conversations with fans and live streams, but we've all seen the people too that just rush in and try to like barge into the conversation and like sext with me in the chat, or just random kids from outside the audience that YouTube recommends the stream to, and they start like spamming the chat or trying to be mean to me or one of my other fans in there. So this way it's a little easier just to tell a story without any interruptions or anything. And the first one I wanted to start with was a very big topic for me, because as you guys know, when I first started this channel, it was actually founded on friendship. And while those friends have since moved on in life, you can see all those older videos of the great times we had together. And I actually had a story to tell about the first friends that I really had a bond with. And of course, this predates me being on this channel. This was actually back in high school. I already uploaded a vlog where I mentioned that, I was born in Ohio, but when I was 7 years old, my dad got a job that took us to Arizona, and my mom reluctantly went along with that move. And it was really hard for me to leave the rest of my family behind, like my grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins and all the friends that I had made so far as a kid. I had to just leave them all behind and move to this entire new state, like go to a new school and everything. And also my parents were having trouble staying together because my dad was not being faithful to my mom. So all of that was really rough on me as a kid, and I suddenly found it really hard to make friends for a while. So like the rest of elementary school and even like middle school was pretty tough for me as far as friends goes, because just that big move and like my parents not staying together, it really made it hard for me to like come out of my shell and like meet people like I was doing before all that happened. And it wasn't until like the end of 8th grade I really started like tearing down those walls and like manning up, so to speak. And yeah, just wanting to start to make friends again. So once high school came around, I was able to do that. Like I met some cool friends in 9th grade. Like we played video games together and did some stuff like that. And then I ended up meeting this friend that I would consider as like the first like real bond that I had with another friend. And the class that I met him in was a history class. And it's funny because like at this school, some of the athletic coaches doubled as teachers for some of the classes. I don't know if like they didn't have enough teachers for some of these subjects, and they're just like, okay, you coach, you're teaching history, and you're teaching math. But my history teacher was actually one of the sports coaches that was also teaching history. So that was the class. And there was this boy in the class, and I like started to notice him one day, and I didn't really understand at the time like what was going on. But it's like I saw this kid and I just felt some sort of like connection to him, like some sort of similarity that was there. It was like some sort of feeling. It wasn't the same feeling that I got from like the pretty girls in school that I wanted to date and hook up with. It was a different kind of like feeling that made me want to get to know him and like explore that feeling and find out like what was causing it. It just made me want to like be his friend. It was like really like pushing me to get to know him. So one day in class, while I was like looking at him and I was trying to figure it out, I didn't realize it, but I was kind of like staring at him, which I know is rude and not something I normally do. But I was looking at him, like I remember he put his head down on the desk and he suddenly like popped his head up and looked right at me, and like he caught me like looking at him, and he kind of gave me one of those like kind of like rolled his eyes like, yeah, dude, I see you looking at me. So I like looked away. I was like, oh shoot. I was like staring at him. I was kind of embarrassed because I wasn't trying to do that. Like I wasn't trying to be weird or anything. I'm just like, what is this like feeling, you know? But I decided that I needed to like talk to this dude and like figure out what was going on. And he must have had the same idea and probably had like the same sense, because like this classroom was at the second floor of the school. So there was a balcony right outside the door. And like when the class ended, where he would normally just walk out the door and go to his next class, he went out the door and he just stopped at the balcony right outside the door and just kind of stood there looking over the balcony. And in my mind, I was like, I think he's giving me an opportunity to talk to him. You know, like he saw me looking at him and maybe he was kind of feeling the same thing, and he's like giving me a chance to say what's up. So I took him up on the offer, if that's what he was doing. You know, I went over and stood next to him at the balcony, and he kind of looked over at me and then looked back. I was like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey. And I remember seeing him talk to somebody that was one of my friends that we apparently both knew. So, you know, I was just kind of improvising the conversation. And I was like, hey, you know, I saw you talking to this guy. He's like, oh yeah, I know him. I was like, yeah, me too. I actually hang out with him. You know, just trying to find some common ground. And then I kind of shifted the conversation to video games. I was like, hey, you know, I got that Grand Theft Auto, man. It's really fun. He's like, yeah, you got that? Oh yeah, that's a cool game. I was like, yeah, do you want to come over and play it? And he's like, yeah, sure, man. He's like, you want to get my number? And I was like, yeah. And he didn't have a cell phone at the time, but I did. So I got his house number and my cell phone. I was like, oh, I'll give you a call, man. He's like, all right, cool. And I was like, wow, that went really well. You know, that's what's up. So I ended up calling him, got him on the phone. And as it turns out, he lived in the same neighborhood that I was living at, that I was like growing up in Arizona at my parents' house. It was a pretty nice neighborhood. It's just, I knew all the kids that were on my end of the neighborhood. Like I would hang out and play with the kids in that area, but he was like a couple streets down on the other side of the neighborhood. So I never really went all the way down there. Had no idea that other people at my school were down there, but hey, he lived there. So that was cool. And even though we met on the pretense of playing Grand Theft Auto, we never played video games together. I ended up saying, you know, hey, so what do you want to do? Do you want to like come over here? Do you want me to go to your place? And he's like, hey, you know, there's that basketball court that's like halfway in between our houses. And I was like, oh yeah, it was a nice basketball court too. And I did like playing basketball. So we ended up meeting up at the basketball court, just the two of us, and we were playing basketball and just, you know, kind of making like awkward small talk. We were both kind of like shy because it was like the first time that we were hanging out together, but it was a lot of fun. You know, it was good competition. And after a couple games, he said he had to get going. And I told him I'd call him some other time. So the next time, one of the next times I ended up calling, we met at the basketball court again. This time he brought one of his friends with him. And these two guys had known each other for a while. And this other kid was a year younger than us. So like me and my new friend were both 16, and this other kid that was his friend was 15. And he brought him along to play basketball. And I'm glad he did, because like I said, those two knew each other for a while, so they were like comfortable around each other. They already had like their own dynamic, their own bond. And with them having that kind of comfort and being, you know, like looser, if you know what I'm saying, like it kind of like broke the ice for all three of us to get to know each other better and be more comfortable around each other and become better friends. So it was a really good idea that he did that, and I'm glad he did. And man, these two guys are hilarious, dude. Like until that point in time, I had never had friends like these two guys before. Like they were like pranksters, and they were just always laughing at everything, like hyenas, dude. Like they would do these pranks. They would like double team me, right? Like my cell phone. I wouldn't want my cell phone in my pocket while I was playing basketball. I didn't want it to fall out, and I would put it off to the side where it wouldn't get hit by the ball. And they would always go over there, and like one of them would pick up my phone and be like, here, do you want this? And I'd go to take it, and he'd throw it to the other one. And they would start playing keep away with my cell phone. Or when I was a kid, they called it monkey in the middle. I was the monkey in the middle. I was jumping up trying to catch it, and they were throwing it around and just cracking up and laughing at me. And they would also do this thing where like, like I love wearing basketball shorts. It's my favorite comfortable thing to wear. And I'd be wearing these baggy basketball shorts. And when I'd go to do a jump shot, one of them would like pull my shorts down, just like totally pants me mid shot and just totally cause me to airball it. And I had to like pull my shorts up from around my ankles. And they would just be like cracking up like hyenas, man, just laughing at my embarrassment. And I've never had friends like that before, man. It was wild, but it was like so much fun. And we would come up with like funny ways to like playfully pick on each other. Like their name for me, the friend I met in the history class, he called me Goof Troop. Like Goofy from Disney. It wasn't like even like a whole crew of people. I was apparently the entire Goof Troop. I was Goof Troop. And then the new friend that he had brought along, he kind of had like a bowl cut like one of the Beatles did. So we would call him like a Beatle. Be like, get out of here with your Beatles cut, bro. And then the other dude, we kind of give him a hard time about being a mama's boy, because when I ended up getting my own apartment at 18, I was like the first friend to get his own apartment and move out that soon. All the other friends in our group would like spend the night except him. He would always have to go home. No matter how like drunk he got or how late it was into the night, he would always have to go home and never stay the night. So he'd be like, oh yeah, you got to go home to your mommy. And he would also do this funny thing where sometimes I would call his house and his mom would answer the phone, and I'd be like, hey, it's me. Is he available to play basketball? I just wanted to see if he wanted to hang out. And she'd be like, hold on. And she'd set the phone down, and you can clearly hear her in the background. She'd be like, hey, it's your friend. He wants to know if you want to play basketball. And I would hear him even further back in the background, tell him I'm not home. And she'd get back on the phone, and she'd be like, sorry, he's not home. And I'm just like, dude, you don't think I can hear you too? Like, really? But I didn't want to be rude to one of my friends' moms, so I'd always be respectful. I'd be like, okay, thank you. Just when he gets back in, let him know I called. I will. And he'd do that too. Like AOL Instant Messenger was still a thing at this time, and when I was in high school, and sometimes I would log in and he'd be on there. Like when I signed in, I'd try to message him, be like, hey man, what are you doing today? And he'd write back and be like, oh hey, this is his mom. He just left this signed in. It's like, I knew it was him. He's just having his mom come to his rescue if he didn't feel like talking or hanging out. So he was the mama's boy. That was really funny. But yeah, just that kind of friendship we had was really cool. I mean, we would like wrestle around. We were typical males, typical boys, wrestling around. That's the first time somebody ever like choked me out. That was never like really a game I had played. But I remember I was like, we were at my parents' house, and one of them just came up behind me and just like choked me out all of a sudden. And I woke up and I was just like wondering what happened. They're just cracking up laughing. I was like, what just happened? And then I like realized it, and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna get you back. He's like, no, you can't. I was like, yeah, you don't like it, do you? I was like, don't be doing that. So like that was like an experience. But back to, I don't want to lose track of what I was saying in the beginning though. I was saying that what drew me to want to meet this guy, and like obviously I'm glad I did. We turned out to be great friends, and it opened up like new doors of friendship for me. So I had never had like friends like that before. But what I was trying to figure out, what like had caused me to want to become this person's friend, like what initially made me like feel that sort of like relativity or connection or whatever it was. And down the road, I realized what that feeling is. Whenever I have that feeling around somebody and I meet them and become their friend because it pushes me to do that, I come to find that we have some unique and cool things in common. And I think you guys probably know what I'm talking about when I say that. You all know because I'm very open about it. As a result of a childhood imprinting, I'm a really big fan of breath holding and body odor. Those are my things that I like. Everybody's got their things they like, right? And that's what I like. And I've realized that everybody I've met and it's guys and girls. Obviously, it's mostly guys, but there's even been girls. Like there was a girl I remember meeting at one of the restaurants I worked at, and I got that feeling from her. And as it turns out, she came up and started talking to me one day because word had gotten around. Like I always told everybody about my YouTube, and they're like, she's like, oh yeah, I heard you have a YouTube and you don't use deodorant. And turns out she really liked guys that naturally smelled like guys that didn't use deodorant. So like even then I was able to detect that like relativity that we have. It's like really unique, and it's really hard to explain, but it's always been the case. It's always been the case. Whenever I have that and I explore it, it's like that person likes something that I like, and it usually ends up coming out one way or another. And like this friend that I had met in history class while we were still in high school, at the time I was wearing these size 12 Adidas white low top shoes. They were like, I think they were running shoes. They were really nice, pretty slick shoes. They're like white with like a black on them. And I didn't even really wear a size 12 at that point. I was still a little smaller than that. So they were a little big on me, but I mean, they fit well enough and they look cool. Of course, I am size 12 now. I kind of got the bigger size a little ahead of the game at that point. And he was wearing these white Etnies skate shoes. I remember he was like size 11 or something. And he complimented my shoes one day, and I told him I liked his too. So he made a proposal. He's like, hey, do you wanna trade shoes for like a few days, or next time we see each other? And I was like, yeah, sure, we can do that. So we like took our shoes off, and then I put his on and he put mine on. And I know I've never really done that with a friend either. And of course, when I went home, I was like smelling the shoes, and I imagined he was doing the same thing. That was kind of like a safe way to do that, you know, without making things awkward or weird or anything like that. Because you know, there's that saying. It's like it's not weird until you make it weird. It was just like a casual friend kind of way to do. It's like, hey, we can entertain this in that way. And as far as like breath holding kind of things goes, there was a time like down the road, because we started partying together and stuff too. Like we'd smoke weed, we'd drink, and I remember one time he came over with like a can of like keyboard duster, and yeah, he came over with this can of duster, and he's like, hey, will you do something for me? He's like, when I take a hit of this, will you like try to choke me out? I was like, okay, if you're asking. So he like sat on my bed, and he'd take like this big hit of cause we were both like 18 at this time. This was like right after high school when I got my first apartment at this time. Kind of jumping ahead in the story. But he'd take like this big hit off the air duster, and I'd like try to choke him really hard. And he never like passed out, but like it was like choking him. And he tried to do it a couple times. And I think he was kind of disappointed that it wasn't like putting him to sleep. But I think it's because he was expecting it. I don't know. It wasn't really working out. But in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I see. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, we didn't really make it weird. It's like, hey, if you like that, that's cool. Like, we'll entertain it. Like, yeah. But that was the start of me really understanding like where that feeling comes from. Because you see a lot of the friends that I've had on the channel too. Like those were all friends that I met organically. Like pretty much every single person you see on the channel from past videos, those are people I met at the restaurant jobs that I worked over the years. Or like I met from friends of the people I met at restaurants. And like all those people that I met and I chose as friends and invited to be on the channel, like I kind of felt that relativity towards in some way. And like when I ended up exploring it, it turned out to be the case. And even like some people that didn't end up on the channel, like I remember there was a guy, he was in his early 20s, and he used to tease me for not using deodorant. And he would like to do this thing where he'd embarrass me. He'd like go up to the pretty girls at work and he'd point at me and whisper, and I know he was probably telling them like, that guy doesn't use deodorant. And they would just kind of give me this look like, and he was just doing it to like embarrass me, like humiliate me in a friendly, funny way. And even though he would tease me about it and he would give me a hard time about it, there was a couple times when, because you know how we all have peripheral vision, like when my back would be to him, I would see him like look up at me out of the corner of my eye, and he would like carefully creep up behind me and like lean forward so that his nose was like under my arm and like take a silent whiff, and then he'd step back and he'd be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" So even though he was like teasing me for not using deodorant, he was like sneaking whiffs of my armpits at work. So I was like, see what's really going on. And again, I kind of had that like that feeling, that like relativity feeling. And I've talked to other people about it too. Like there was a friend on the channel named Leo Links, and I brought that up to him. I was like, hey, you know, like I had this like sense when I met you, like there was something in common. He's like, his eyes lit up. He's like, I had that too. And he was definitely like a body odor kind of guy too. You know, he would make comments to me like, oh man, I only shower like 2 or 3 times a week. And he's like, I always wear my shoes without socks. My feet smell like ass. Like he was always saying that kind of stuff. And he worked up the courage to like smell my armpit at work one day. Like I can tell he was really working up for it. But I don't want to get too off topic. It's just kind of branching off and connecting to like other stories that I'm going to be telling down the road. But that was like in my teenage years, I had, man, it was just really, really rough for me as a kid. Like having to move to the other side of the country, leave my friends and family behind. Because I did have a childhood best friend too, before the age of 7 that I had to leave behind and when I moved from Ohio, and that was really heartbreaking for me. So to leave all that behind and my family's like fighting and, you know, there's like alcoholism in the home, it just really messed me up as a kid for a little bit in terms of making friends and having like really bad social anxiety. But I was able to tear down those walls and man up and give people a chance and be adventurous. And I ended up like meeting these friends that I bonded really well with. And that was like the start of having like close friendships. Because of course you see in the videos, you see the friendships I had with people like T-Rex and Lord Rubik's, like the close friendship, the intimate friendship that we had. And, you know, we're entertaining things that we like to as bros. And I am happy to say too, like the original friend I met in the history class, I tried to keep in touch with him after I moved from Arizona back to Ohio, because I moved a lot. Like I ended up moving back to Ohio, and then last year I moved down south to South Carolina where I live now. But I tried to keep in touch with that guy, and he didn't really try to keep in touch back. But the friend that he had brought along to the basketball court that day that we all ended up becoming good friends with, he ended up becoming my best friend when I was a teenager. And I'm happy to say I'm still in touch with that guy, even though he still lives in the Southwest. We still maintain contact. We'll text, and every once in a while we'll even like schedule a phone call and just reminisce on the good old times and like catch up on our lives and see how we're doing. And we'll still make fun of that guy for being a mama's boy. And I'll be like, hey bro, you still got your Beatles cut? I'm still rocking the Goof Troop over here, bro. You want to play basketball and get schooled? I will just just shoot the shit and reminisce like that. And it's really cool to be able to have that kind of connection with someone still, even though there's like such a great distance between us. And it would be surreal to like reconnect someday, because it's really interesting. He was actually born in Ohio too, and his family had also relocated to Arizona. So you can almost say like sometimes people are meant to meet and have those kinds of experiences, because like before that I didn't know that kind of friendship. That literally opened the door to having those kinds of bonds with other people as friends, you know, to like entertain those kind of things together casually, and to have like an intimate bond with another person. Because like I said, I only ever dated girls in high school. That guy only ever dated girls in high school. And the other guy never even dated in high school. He didn't even date till after high school. But I mean, we were really close. We were about as close as you can be for friends. And we have a lot of great memories. And that is kind of like a precursor to the friendship that I would go on to have with friends like T-Rex and Lord Rubik's. And I started broadcasting that. And it was kind of like the foundation of how I started this channel and put my own sense of humor and creativity and interest into it. And yeah, man, here we are today. I am now that I'm in this new state and I got all this housework caught up, I do want to start meeting some new friends. I already have met a few new friends, some guys that were helping. I met this contractor, and he's got a couple employees that do work, and there were some jobs that this house needed that I'm not comfortable or skilled in, like installing windows, especially like the huge heavy triple window. There's no way I would have done that by myself. So I met these two guys that have been doing some work on the house, and they're like, "Hey, you're here by yourself, man? Yeah, man, let's hang out, let's do this and that," and hopefully get some more male bonding going. And oh man, it has been a while since I was so busy like working on this house. I've actually been having dreams about people I used to hang out with. It's wild. It's like my brain is remembering those good times and like, hey man, it's time to have some more good times like that with more people. Like get out of the house and go meet some more friends. And I can't guarantee like I'm gonna get anybody else on the channel, because it takes a lot to just jump into somebody's show and like be on camera, especially with my unique content. But as far as just having friends and creating new memories with them and having new bonds and even having like stories to tell, that's going to be a great thing, man. And it's an adventure that just keeps going in life. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that. And I hope everybody out there, if you guys have good friends, be good to your friends. Understand, because like sometimes people's lives go in a different direction, people's lives change. You could be like really good friends one day and then like strangers the next day. Somebody might end up moving or get busy or get in a relationship, and then it's like poof, they're gone. It's always hard when the people you create memories with become memories, but at the same time it's like it's a good thing, because like to have that kind of experience, to have those feelings, and to be able to have those memories and feel good about them and be inspired to like meet more people and have more memories like that, like that's a good thing. And even though it hurts to part ways, at least it felt good and it was a great thing while you had it. So I've met some people that they've gotten kind of bitter about bad experiences they had. They're like, oh man, like I've been abandoned by too many friends. I've been screwed over by people, and they just don't trust anybody anymore, and they just don't have any desire to like meet new friends and even give people a chance anymore. And it's like, man, it's always hard when you realize that some people may not value friendship as much as you do, and they might trample your feelings like that and abandon you or whatever. But you don't want to give up on people. You don't want to let bad experiences ruin it for you, because if you're a good person and you're a social butterfly like I am, and you're really charismatic or courageous, whatever it is, when it comes to meeting people and making that bond and having fun, don't ever give up on that, and don't ever let any bad experience stop you from doing that, because that's a gift to have. And let's face it, man, like friendship is a really great thing. As humans, we are social creatures, so we do enjoy the company of others. We do enjoy that friendly affection. We enjoy that intimacy. Like I've always been someone, like I shake hands and I hug my friends. I've had those kinds of close personal relationships, and I treasure them, and I look forward to more of them. So yeah, I don't want to make these live streams 4 hours like the previous ones. This one's going on about 30 minutes. I think that'll be a good time to stop for this first one. Just finally getting around to telling some of these stories I said I wanted to share with you guys, like about like my upbringing and my past experiences with friends, and like stepping stones to who I've become today, what inspired me to become me today, because those friends definitely had a big inspiration on my personality and the way I bond with other people and joke around with them too. And before I close it, let me show you this awesome shirt I'm wearing. Look at that punk raccoon, just look at that. Another one I got designed by an independent artist. That's so me, right? Thank you so much for listening, guys. I will be expect some more like chatless, chat-free, the chat's not open, just so I can tell these kind of stories without any distractions or interruptions. Because I do enjoy socializing with my fans on here, the ones who do socialize. But it's also nice to be able to tell stories like this without having to like read the screen and like lose my train of thought to answer a question or something. But if you do have questions, leave them in the comments and I will reply to you there. So that way you still can interact with me. Don't worry. But I love you guys. Thank you for listening. There's more content on the way. Make sure to check for the new shorts I post, new long form videos, new live streams, and always check the website, thenodeohero.com. I'm always updating that. And I do have my Patreon too, Patreon/thenodeohero if you want to become a supporter. I post exclusive content, private posts on there every month, several times a month. So stay tuned for more. Thank you for listening to my story about my first real close, intimate friendship that I ever had. It's a story worth sharing. And I'll see you guys in the next one.